For this video, I wanted to try something a little different and focus on how Make a New Track is affecting my pull plan in regards to mainly Maruzensky and Mr. CB. So initially I wanted to pull on Mr. CB and Maruzensky's initial banners, but it's been since brought to my attention that neither of these cards are particularly good for Make a New Track anyway, which is the scenario that will be ongoing somewhere around this time, with the fourth scenario launching, I assume, in partnership with the Agnes Tachyon and Light Hello friend card. And so the third scenario, Make a New Track, is going to encompass a large section of this part of the gacha schedule. And because of that, my new targets for banners in the second year of at least JP's gacha schedule will be Super Creek and Fine Motion, with Maruzensky and Mr. CB's rerun banners. And I'm no longer fixated on getting MLBs of Maruzensky or Mr. CB, because in Mr. CB's case, her rerun banner isn't too long before Mejiro Ramonu's, and so she's going to end up probably getting dropped for her. And the difference between MLB Maruzensky and 1LB Maruzensky isn't that great, and that's also the case for Mr. CB too. There isn't that great of a difference between 1LB and MLB of these cards, and so I'd probably just be better off using whatever limit breaks I manage to get while gunning for MLBs of Fine Motion and Super Creek instead. Because the core of Kita-san, Super Creek, and Fine Motion is just a really reliable and stable core, and Maruzensky 1LB and Mr. CB 1LB will be very serviceable cards, and this support deck won't be too far off from what a whale is probably going to have around this time. Whereas with Make a New Track specifically, these are going to be key cards that people are going to pull for in order to strengthen their decks, and I personally do not want to pull on any of these. The reason being that, in my estimation, pulling for these cards will give you this sort of power spike, and then let's say this power spike is pulling for Agnes Tachyon's banner later in the year, like once the fourth scenario begins. And this is whale strength. I have whale strength as just being a straight line because a whale is going to have the best cards available at any given time. And so this is, if you pull for, and this isn't a one-to-one representation, it's just a crude illustration. The lines aren't incredibly accurate, but rather than having a curve like this, I'd rather just sack the entirety of Make a New Track and not pull for anything, and then pull for Super Creek and Fine Motion later in the year on their rerun banners, so that I have an increase in my account strength that looks something closer to this. And the reason I say this is because if you're a whale during Make a New Track, your deck is going to look something like this, which, you know, tons of race bonus, tons of initial stats from MLB Matakane. And if you're free to play and you invest your carrots into trying to be competitive and Make a New Track, at best you can expect your deck to look something like this. And even this is probably pushing it to some degree, but this has 10% less race bonus than the whale deck has, and also has Narita Top Road in place of Matakane. And something I want to point out in regards to those cards is that there is a big difference between not having MLB of these cards and having MLB of these cards. Like it's a night and day difference. It's not like the difference between Maruzensky 1LB or Mr. CB 1LB versus their MLBs. Like there's a relatively small difference in power with those cards compared to these. Matakane has half of her initial stats at 1LB. Narita Top Road is missing her fan bonus, which is tied to her training effectiveness. Her training effectiveness scales with the amount of fans that she has. so not having a fan bonus. And she also doesn't have a race bonus too, by the way, and neither does Matakane. And Admire Vega doesn't unlock the entirety of her race bonus until she's MLB, and it's a further MLB where she unlocks her power bonus as well. And so, the best that you can hope for is if you get MLB of these cards, Narita Top Road and Admire Vega in particular. I think if you're free to play and you pull for MLBs of all three of these cards, I think that's a little short-sighted, but that's just my opinion, because in my estimation, you're still not going to quite be able to close the gap between free to play and whales during Make a New Track, because the nature of Make a New Track is that you're going to gain the majority of your stats through race bonus and races, because you're going to be running a lot more races than you will be training. And so having initial stats from a card like Matsukane, in addition to the fact that 5-star Umas actually have 100 more initial stats than a 3-star Uma. Like, these differences might not look that crazy here, but it actually adds up to 100 total stats. And so the combination of 100 total stats there between a 3-star Uma and a 5-star Uma, along with having 150 more total stats from MLB Matsukane, means that a whale is going to have in total 250 more initial stats than you do. And the nature of the scenario is that you're going to snowball your stats by winning your first few races with having a high race bonus. And so having a lot of initial stats combined with high race bonus means that you're more likely to win your first few races, and those wins are going to snowball your run much harder. Whereas if you're a free-to-play player, you're going to have a little bit of a tougher time guaranteeing your first few race wins, and the race bonuses of your race wins in general is not going to be quite as profitable. And so that's why I'm personally going to be doing this rather than pulling for cards during Make a New Track and then pulling for cards later. I'd rather just save all my carrots for one big power spike later and just sack the entirety of Make a New Track, because I personally don't see myself coming anywhere close to closing the gap between free-to-play and whale during this particular scenario, just due to the fact of how it operates. And so my support deck during this scenario is going to look something closer to this, with my borrow slot still open, because I don't want to pull for cards like Narita Top Road and Admire Vega, because they're going to have very little value beyond the scenario. Like, they're still usable beyond this scenario, but they're no longer going to be the ideal cards you want in your deck. And so I'd rather just make short-term sacrifices for long-term benefits, especially when this scenario is also going to be one of the more boring and tedious ones to play to begin with, just due to the fact that it's going to be so long because you have to run so many races. And so I'd rather just forego having something like this in favor of having something like this later on, which will also eventually become this once I pull for Mejido Ramonu early in the following year. And so this is my borrow slot still open, and I have Maruzensky as 1 LB, but who knows, I might get more LBs of her, and so it might be something like this, which is much more in line with what a Whales deck is going to look like around this time than what a Whales deck is going to look like during Make a New Track. Like, I personally just don't see the benefit in trying to chase them when, even if you invest a significant amount of carrots and you end up with something ideal like this, you're still not going to quite reach them. So I just don't think it's worth it. Like, Fine Motion's banner is a banner where, because she has 10% race bonus, you can pull on her, her initial rerun banner here, but she's paired alongside Kawakami Princess, which just isn't a very good card at all. And I don't really see the point in trying to chase after Fine Motion, and then if you do that, then you're basically committed to pulling for this too. and I don't want to pull for this because I mean, if you see here, Admire Vega, she only has a 1% rate up anyway, which, if you combine that with the fact that she's an SR, so you have the 10 pull guarantee that's going for you, which slightly increases the odds of getting her. But overall, the odds of getting her is not that much higher than getting the SSR rate up, which is Narita Top Road. And I've heard people suggest that you can use your SR crystals in order to get her MLB rather than pulling for all of the copies of her, but I'm not even sure I want to do that. SR crystals, I guess, will be less useful in the future, because if my deck is going to look something like this anyway, like there's not really any room in this anymore for an SR card. So I can see why using your SR crystal on this is seen as beneficial, because after this scenario, you're probably going to have pulled on enough banners that you don't need to supplement your support deck with an SR card at all anymore. So the SR crystals in general aren't going to be as useful. But even with that in mind, I just don't want to pull on this banner at all, because there's still the possibility that I invest a significant amount of carats into this banner and I don't even get a copy of her. And if that happens, then I can't use my SR crystal on her anyway. So that's just not a risk that I'm willing to take personally. If you want to do that, that's fine. Like, I'm not going to tell other people that they shouldn't try to invest in Make a New Track, or they shouldn't try to get Admire Vega, or any of these cards that are going to make your life a little bit easier during Make a New Track. It's just, I would rather be miserable now. Well, not now, but during Make a New Track, I'd rather just be miserable than try to ease the pain by pulling for cards that I know won't have long-term value. Because I've already spent 3 months playing the game without any support card pulls at all. So if I could do it for 3 months, I could probably do it for another, 8? I mean, it depends on what my Kita-san pulls look like. Because while I want to pull on Kita-san sooner rather than later, the sooner I pull for her, the more sparse my support card pool is going to be, because I'll have less carats overall invested. But anyway, I just wanted to experiment more with a freeform sort of ranting, rambly video. Partially because I wanted to try something new, and then partially because it honestly kind of bothers me that people think my voice is AI. Like, part of me is flattered, but then the other part of me is like, makes me feel like people think I'm fake, or at the very least my voice is fake. So it's like, yeah, I'd be lying if I said it didn't bother me to some degree. But yeah, I think I've said all I wanted to say, so peace.